Today, the film that we are going to be breaking down is a 2012 visual delight called Barfi, written by Anurag Basu, Tani Basu, and Sanjeev Datta. So, should we go into the hero's journey next?
Yeah, let's do that.
What is your hero's journey? Your hero's journey is the structural spine of your film. It tells you the journey your hero is going on, and at each turn of the story of his journey, what
Mm,
obstacles he is going to face. And these obstacles deliver an emotional hit to your audience every so often that makes
mm,
them sit and follow through on your hero's journey. It
mm.
creates progress, it creates a sense of motion, and it creates a sense of constant conflict. So sometimes, even if you're wondering why your plot is not really landing, once you've written it out, map it against your hero's journey to
Hmm,
see whether it's meeting all these turning points. And
hmm.
if it isn't, you know that it's a very simple diagnostic tool to tell you that, okay, this is maybe what I have to fix. Now, on the hero's journey of Barfi,
Mhm.
I believe that there are two different stories being told.
Okay.
There is first Ranbir Kapoor and Ileana D'Cruz's love story, which is
Right.
being told. And then you have Ranbir Kapoor and his father's story, where his
Okay.
father is
Hmm,
dying, Barfi and his father, which brings Jhilmil into the
hmm,
loop, Priyanka
hmm,
Chopra's character. And both, this begins a separate hero's journey. But
hmm.
both these hero's journeys come converge,
Intersect, huh?
yeah, at the point of the reward.
Hmm.
And they both go and flow as one hero's journey from there.
Hmm. That's amazing. I didn't think of it that way. Hmm.
So I'll talk you through both of those heroes'
Hmm.
journeys and then from the convergence point.
Hmm.
And I'll also talk about why it works
Hmm.
once we get there. Okay.
Hmm.
So, first we have the ordinary world. The ordinary world is where your hero is before they've started going on the quest to achieve their goal. You see
Hmm.
the where, what, who, why, and when of their surroundings. And we also get an understanding of why they're not able to achieve their goal.
Hmm.
In this particular story, in Barfi's story, the ordinary world shows us that he is a charming young man. But he's considered a menace by everyone around him because of
Hmm.
the way he lives his life.
Hmm.
We learn that he's deaf and dumb, that his name was originally Murphy after Murphy Radio, but because he was deaf and dumb, it sounded like Barfi when it came out of his mouth,
Yeah.
and that became his name.
Right.
Then we have the call to action.
Hmm.
The call to action is where your hero is asked for the first time in our
Hmm.
story, within our movie, to go and pursue their goal. They are
Hmm.
called to take action towards pursuing their goal.
Hmm.
And over here, it happens when he first spots Ileana D'Cruz's character, Shruti, right?
Right.
And Barfi doesn't hesitate at all. While he can't speak, he is not lacking charm in any way, shape, or form. He mimes and he pulls his heart out of his chest and offers it up to her. And
Yeah.
Ileana plays hard to get.
Hmm.
This brings us to the refusal of the call. The refusal of the call is the step in your hero's journey where your hero feels like, I can't go on this journey.
Hmm.
This might come from within, where they themselves may decide, may hesitate from
Hmm.
accepting the call, or someone else may reject it for them.
Hmm.
In this case, it is the knowledge that Ileana D'Cruz or Shruti is
Hmm.
actually
Hmm.
engaged.
Engaged. Hmm.
So that is the refusal to the call that no, you cannot pursue me.
Hmm.
This is not happening, right?
Hmm.
Then you have meeting the mentor. The
Hmm.
mentor traditionally is the character who has been there and done that. He has been
Hmm.
on your journey before. If you're
Hmm.
going to go slay the dragon, he's going to hand you the sword to be able to slay the dragon.
Hmm.
Over here, there is no one who particularly hands Barfi's character the sword.
Hmm.
He has his way of going about things.
Hmm.
So he decides to cross the threshold
Hmm.
himself.
Hmm.
Crossing the threshold is where you say, okay, now that I have the sword, I am going to step into this new world and
Hmm.
cross the threshold, the shortcut of my old world,
Hmm.
and embark on my journey of achieving my goal.
Hmm.
So Barfi climbs up to the clock tower and he physically he moves the arms back as he
Hmm.
sends a note to Shruti. and says that pretend that the last 15 minutes that our conversation never happened, that I never professed my love to you, but I want to be in your life. I would love to be your friend. Let's
Friend.
be friends.
Hmm.
And Shruti watches this from the cafe terrace where she's sitting, and she waves out to him and says that, okay, I will be happy to be your friend.
Hmm.
So we know that Barfi has entered the new world and crossed the threshold into this new world,
Hmm.
right? Then we have the next segment, which is Tess, Allies, and Enemies.
Hmm.
In this, the hero is in the new world and he's understanding the lay of the land. He's understanding who his friends are, who his enemies are, what obstacles he's going to face in this new world. And in our story, at this point, we see Barfi and Shruti spending more time together. They become close. He's super charming. He
Hmm.
gives her what she wants. He makes her laugh and smile. And the two of them really hit it off. They spend more
Hmm.
and more time together.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you have the approach to the innermost cave.
Hmm.
When talking about it from a romantic point of view, the approach to the innermost cave is the part where you get what you want, right?
Hmm.
Where you go after what you want. It is
Hmm.
approaching the dragon, ready to slay him.
Hmm.
And over here, in a romantic setting, it is kissing the woman you love.
Hmm.
And so Ileana de Cruz and Ranbir Kapoor's character finally kiss.
Yes. Hmm.
It's the moment we've been waiting for. It is phenomenal. And but then after you've slain the dragon, you
Hmm.
always have the ordeal.
Hmm.
So the ordeal begins when Ranbir Kapoor has approached the innermost cave and he says that and he goes to Ileana de Cruz's parents and says, I want to marry your daughter. Essentially, your ordeal is where you're facing the consequences of approaching the cave. So,
Right.
what are the consequences of asking for her hand in marriage?
Hmm.
Her fiance is obviously there. So he
Hmm.
realizes that, okay, this can't happen. Ileana de Cruz's mum reads the note where he says that I want to ask your daughter's hand in marriage. And the mum tells the dad that, oh, he's just asking for donation because he's deaf and dumb.
Yeah.
And the
She
dad
lies.
pulls out some money. Yes, she
Hmm.
lies. And then as Ranbir Kapoor is leaving,
Hmm.
Shruti follows him out, and
Hmm.
the two of them have a big fight, which where Ranbir Kapoor essentially says or mimes or actions that, "Oh my God, can you like look at how they're treating me? What because I don't have money? Oh, your fiance
Hmm.
has a car. Well, I hope you're happy." And he returns the money, and he even apologizes for being so rude when he realizes
Hmm.
what he's done, and he leaves.
Hmm.
And finally, Shruti also leaves town, and Ranbir Kapoor makes one last try to stop her, but her mum is in the train with her. He bumps into a light pole, and that's the end of that story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, this is your first hero's journey.
That's
Then,
amazing. That's amazing. I didn't obviously make this connection that treated as these two separate stories. a- But
hmm,
what you're saying makes complete sense.
and so therein begins the next part of your story, where
Hmm.
you go back to Ranbir Kapoor's ordinary world, where
Hmm.
it's him and his father. And his
Hmm.
father works for Jhilmil, which is who is Priyanka Chopra's character. Priyanka
Hmm.
Chopra is autistic in this film. She's essentially unwanted in her parents' house, but she's there. And yeah, so we see the ordinary world
Hmm.
where Ranbir Kapoor's dad is now sick
Hmm.
because he's been fired from his job and they have no money to
Hmm.
pay for the treatment. Another part of the ordinary world is Ranbir Kapoor goes to Jhilmil's dad and says that, look, we need 7,000 rupees for the
Hmm.
treatment. We don't have that money. Could you please lend us some money?
Hmm.
Because after all, you fired him and this is
Yeah.
not your fault. But he gives him some pocket change and spare
Sure.
change and says, off you go. Right? Yeah. Okay. Our next step is the call to action. The call to action is where the characters finally call to pursue their goal. So
Hmm.
this is where Ranbir Kapoor has the idea to go kidnap Jhilmil
Hmm.
because he
Hmm.
realizes that if he kidnaps her, then he can get the money, the ransom money
Hmm.
that he wants to cure his father.
Hmm.
Now, the refusal of the call happens when he goes to Jhilmil's house to kidnap her and realizes that somebody else has already kidnapped her.
Hmm. Yeah.
So he's not able to do what he wants to do. So then he tries to rob a bank.
Hmm.
But he's unable to rob the bank.
Hmm.
So as he's running out of there being chased by the police, he happens upon the van in which Jhilmil is actually being kidnapped.
Hmm.
So a scuffle follows and he's able to steal that van.
Hmm.
So again, there is no mentor as such who hands him the sword here. It is
Hmm.
happening upon that van. And then he crosses the threshold by taking her home and
Yeah.
saying that you're now going to stay here with me. I've kidnapped you.
Hmm.
Right. Then we have tests, allies, and enemies where they get to know each other,
Hmm.
and we realize how hard it is for Barfi's character to be able to live with an autistic person, to be able to understand Jhilmil, what she needs. The two of them fight. She tries to escape, she tries to run away, but
Hmm.
eventually they form a bit of an understanding and a friendship with each other.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then we have the approach to the innermost cave. The
Hmm.
approach to the innermost cave is where Ranbir Kapoor finally delivers the ransom note to
Hmm.
Jhilmil's father
Hmm.
and says, drop off the money here at this time in
Hmm.
this place.
Hmm.
Uh, they drop off the money. Ranbir Kapoor gets the money. And just as he gets the money, his ordeal begins because as he deposits it at the hospital, his father passes away.
Hmm. Yeah.
So he is unable to do anything about it. That is
Hmm.
the ordeal. And then
Hmm.
the ordeal continues. Like he sends Jhilmil back to her house and says, okay,
Hmm.
you go. But Jhilmil doesn't want to go back home and live with her family.
Yeah.
Ranbir Kapoor is also by himself. Now he was pursuing love all this time. And
Right.
Shruti, Liana D'Cruz's character who he loved, left him. His dad, the only other person who loved him, has left him.
Right.
Now the police are after him. Jhilmil
Hmm.
is refusing to leave his side.
Hmm.
He's like, what should I do? The two
Hmm.
of them go to Calcutta.
Hmm.
And finally, at Calcutta, they are met with a reward. And this reward is both the tracks converging. The
Yeah.
reward is meeting Shruti all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Hmm.
Then you have the way back,
Hmm.
which is where Shruti starts spending more time with Barfi and
Hmm.
Jhilmil. Barfi falls in love with Jhilmil. The two
Hmm.
almost kiss, but they don't because Jhilmil still needs to get more comfortable around him. But she is most certainly in love with him too.
Hmm.
But Jhilmil is also jealous of Shruti's presence in Barfi's life. So
Yeah.
she runs away when she
Yeah.
realizes that when she sees Barfi and Shruti being too close.
Hmm. Hmm.
Barfi is then arrested for
Huh.
Jhilmil's kidnapping and except that he is able to escape the police station in the nick of time.
Hmm.
And then, as he and Shruti are back hiding in Calcutta, he remembers that Jhilmil was actually in a home for
Hmm.
specially abled kids,
Hmm.
and they track down that home and they go to find her there. Even
Hmm.
over there, the guy, the steward of the home, doesn't want to give away the fact that Jhilmil is there, so he lies about it. And Barfi is at his lowest, and the two of them are leaving the home when Jhilmil calls her from the top. That
Hmm.
she calls her and says, Barfi, Barfi. And that is the moment of resurrection. And when your character's at the lowest, when they think they will never find love again, when they
Hmm.
think their goal is just so close to being achieved, but now will never be achieved, they
Hmm.
rise from the ashes. And then you finally have the return with the elixir,
Hmm.
which is where you go back into your old world, but now you're a new person. You have gone through this journey, you have overcome your flaw, you've learned who you are, and you go back now a wizened person. And now
Hmm.
Barfi goes back to his own world, having old world, having married Jhilmil, having known
Hmm.
that he's actually lovable, that he's not a menace, and
Hmm.
that he deserves to be loved.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So this is your hero's journey. And I want to talk about two things here.
Hmm.
One, why it really works as two stories, because
Hmm.
essentially one story is ending, another story is beginning. The reason we can have the Shruti story and then begin a whole new story is because even as we are beginning a whole new story, it begins with a level of conflict. It
Yeah.
begins with the dad like dying or being on his deathbed.
Hmm.
So that is why you can switch from one story to another, because it's not like you went like, oh, I was so up here and I'm bringing the audience here. No, I
Down.
was up here
Yeah.
in terms of emotion and now I'm taking the emotion even higher. And the second thing I want to note here is this kind of structuring is impossible to do by plotting it on paper and
Hmm.
saying, Acha, am I meeting this beat of the hero's journey? Am I meeting
Yeah.
this beat of the hero's journey? This happens very organically when you are a strong storyteller and you
Hmm.
have a near instinctive understanding of what lends to a good story.
Yeah. Hmm.
You will feel it in your bones. You might not have the words for it. The reason we
Hmm.
have the words for it is because that is our whole idea, right? We go into
Yeah.
these podcast episodes going, all we need to give people the words for it.
Yeah.
But most storytellers, if develop this over practice,
Hmm.
but and then it comes to them instinctively because you've
Hmm.
read so many scripts, you've
Yeah.
watched so many movies that you know that, acha, if that now that Shruti is gone, I can't just bring the story down. It has to be elevated.
That,
It
huh.
will niggle you in your chest कि
Yeah.
अच्छा ठीक नहीं बैठ रहा है.
Yeah.
So that's why you need to be watching more breakdowns like this. You need to
Hmm.
be like reading more scripts intentionally with your brain on and trying to understand what's happening so that
Hmm.
when it comes to writing your own script, that
Hmm.
part of your brain can go off. It's like driving a
Hmm.
car. At
Hmm.
first, everything is like you're being super vigilant. You're like,
Hmm.
okay, my foot is on the clutch and the accelerator, and I'm also looking at traffic and all of that. But 5 months later, you're doing that and you're talking on the phone
Phone.
while doing that,
Yeah.
So that's what happens. You will be able to do this instinctively.
And to support your argument, I was like asking some people about the movie and all that, and I got to know like it started from a 40-page script.
Oh.
Like, and it was written fully linear.
Mhm.
And it's because this storyteller is like this, like Anurag Basu, who keeps changing stuff till the like last moment. He
Hmm.
decided that he's gonna, if only like the film will have more like feel like it has more stakes. So what we are talking about in the log line, that only if like it starts in a non-linear way, like it has chase sequences, you keep cutting back to the second timeline, which has the police and the investigation going on. So
Yeah.
he wrote it linearly, decided that it doesn't work the most, and like flipped the script completely.
And if you want to watch the complete breakdown of Barfi, the scenes, sequences, hero's journey, dialogues, find the link in the description below, which will take you to the full episode of our breakdown. And we'll see you next week.